Let's talk about the EU AI Act and the DSGVO, or in English, GDPR. If you want to sell these applications, it's important that you do this legally. And especially if you want to sell this in Europe, it's like a little bit more crucial. If you want to sell this in the USA or in other parts of the world, it's most likely not that restricted. But nonetheless, I want to give you an overview. I have also 2 articles that I have created with deep research, and this article will guide you also in the right direction. So let's just make an overview. Then I also want to show you the stuff from OpenAI so that we can do this correctly. Overview of the EU AI Act. The AI Act is a comprehensive regulatory framework aiming to ensure AI systems are trustworthy, safe, and respect fundamental rights. It adopts a risk-based approach and sets clear rules depending on AI system risk, balancing innovation with oversight. Basically, the EU always has a lot of regulations, and if you work in the US, it's a little bit less restricted. Here are some guidelines for a chatbot business. First, you need the risk clarification system. We have the unacceptable risk, high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk. What does this mean? The unacceptable risk is, for example, prohibited AI uses such as manipulating systems. Of course, we will not make this, and this is also not acceptable. Then we have high risk systems. A significant impact, for example, chatbots that give medical advice or legal advice. This is of course high risk, but we can create them. Then we have limited risks. Most of the time we will create something like this. A system requiring transparency, such as a typical customer service chatbot. And then we have minimal risk. No mandatory obligations or voluntary compliance. As soon as we have classified our risk, we have the compliance requirements. We as chatbot developers must do the following things. Clearly disclose AI interactions. So we will basically need to say that this chatbot is created with AI, or AI works in the background. Ensure data privacy and GDPR compliance. I want to talk about this in a few minutes. Mitigate biases and inaccuracies in datasets. So basically you should never train on datasets that harm specific group of people. Maintaining comprehensive documentation, especially for high-risk systems. Basically you need to tell if somebody asks why you have to use these datasets, so you need to document this. Implement human oversight mechanisms and always monitor the performance of your chatbot, of course. Here are some practical strategies. Assess chatbot risk level early in development. Clearly inform users they are interacting with AI. Use high-quality, diverse datasets to minimize bias. Develop clear technical documentation. Regularly conduct risks assessments and bias audits. Set up human oversights and fallback systems for high-risk chatbots. Prepare for third-party conformity if required. Of course, we have some challenges and concerns. The regulatory is always uncertain. It's also technically difficult to implement all of this transparently. Compliance costs can increase. The European Union can also do what it wants. And we have competitive impacts. And a small little future outlook. Basically, businesses have time to adapt to these because nothing is set in stone until yet. Businesses also can make certifications. Global influence will also make this a lot better. Not just the European Union can say here what it wants. We will get periodic updates and standards over time. And we will get increased consumer expectations for AI transparency and ethical use. Now let's just talk briefly about the GDPR, or in German, the DSGVO. It applies every time as soon as a chatbot handles personal data. For example, names, emails, IP addresses, and so on. The US is here a little bit more open. Basically, it's enough if you have an opt-out model. We have to define clearly data processing and roles. So controller versus processor. We need to have some agreements, and we need to have privacy to minimize data collection if it's not needed. Data processing and storage is also critical. Collect only necessary personal data. Encrypt data at rest and transit. HTTPS is for example fine, or also the AES 256 encryption is recommended. Don't worry about this, OpenAI will cover these for us, I will show you this in a second. And implement automated data retention and deletion schedules. Use consent management. Basically you need to communicate clearly. store consent logs for audits, and allow easy withdrawal of consent if needed. The security measures are, of course, this encryption method, a role-based access control, or a multi-factor authentication, enable users to access, rectify erase, and port their data through chatbot interfaces, and automate processes for responding promptly to the GDPR if requested. Here are some examples. ChatGPT faced regulatory actions for lack of transparency, prompting clearer user disclosures and consent features. BotPress has also some stuff included that works relatively nice for us in the EU. But also N8N is perfect because it is built in Europe, it is built in Berlin. And HealthChat also did a great job here. Actions that you should do: clearly define data collection and legal bias upfront. This is the most important thing. Utilize tools that are okay, and N8N is okay, also the OpenAI API is okay. And of course review and document compliance. And that's basically it. And now, yes, I know this can be a little bit complicated, but let me tell you, like, if you work with the stuff that we have covered over this course, you should be completely fine. And one more thing about privacy, and if you want to do everything right for Europe, yes, I know in the US it's not that problematical, but especially in Europe you can have some problems, and that's why OpenAI has also responded to Europe. We have data residency in Europe right now. API customers can use it. And that's of course perfect because the content gets stored at rest in Europe, so we will not send the data to the USA and then we are fine. In the API platform you can go to your projects and then you select Europe and you are fine. So basically you will use servers from Europe and you will not send your data out to the USA. It builds on top of a robust data privacy and security model, supports hundreds of organizations, from small startups and large enterprise customers. For example, Booking.com, Zalando, Spotify and a lot more. And of course here you see that they are using the AES 256 for data at rest. So basically you are covered, you are safe. They do not train on the input data, this is also important. They have good data protection that is legal, also with the GDPR, and the processing of the data is fine. And if you press on learn more, you can also learn more, but basically if you do the steps here from this video, you should be fine. You can just work with the OpenAI API and use the server from Europe in your project and then you are completely covered. Nonetheless, because I am not your lawyer, I have created this gigantic article that you can read. Here is a really gigantic documentation that has also a lot of links where you can click yourself through. So basically this is everything about the AI Act that you need to know if you want to dive deeper. And the same thing is true for the DSGVO, or basically the GDPR compliance. You can simply press on this article and see for yourself everything that is important. I know there stands a lot, but basically you do not have to really read all of this. I just wanted to give it to you, because like I'm not your lawyer, you can send this to your lawyer. Long story short, if we work over the OpenAI API and we use a server from Europe, we should be safe for the AI Act and also for the DSGVO. Then of course you need to make your chatbot ethically, so use diverse data to train it on. And don't try to, for example, give specific information about a group of people that gets excluded or something like this. You need to be able to explain why your chatbot behaves the way it behaves, and then you should be completely safe. I know this is boring, but I think also this should be covered in a course.